Welcome once again to Crossing Hands, episode 3. With me tonight is Jordan Volcano Hands Castle. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm okay. I'm good. How are you, man?
Excellent. I'm doing quite well. It's of course just soda that I'm drinking.
Of course it is. Same here, naturally.
Yes,
Can't
today
tell
was
because of the metal cup.
right. Today was my easy day at work. I was literally alone all day. So I got paid to basically write. It's always nice, not exactly the way I thought I would achieve that particular goal, but you know, I'll take what I can get.
What were you writing today?
Oh, finishing up some material for the Xingyi manual. It kept getting pushed back by just the hours I was working at my last job, moving down to the area I'm in now, getting situated over here now. But yeah, luckily nobody that that works under me knows that I do this, so I can freely say, the most recent delay caused by work was me making preparations for 2 people to be fired because they're not suitable for the jobs. So it'll be easier going forward.
There it is, man. There it is.
Yes.
Things are going well on your end.
Yeah, and yours, from what I understand. Your studies going well?
Calm over here. Very calm. It's spending time with friends, spending time with family. Just back to basics. Back to trying to get a bit of training in. It's been far too long.
Yeah, there's nothing like outside obligations to get in the way of building up your kung fu.
Oh yeah, or in my case, karate. A bit of a weird mix of both. It's been an interesting year.
Yeah. All right. Well, actually, speaking of that, why don't you tell us about your background? For the people at home, a little bit about.
Yeah. So I started out getting bullied pretty ferociously. So primary school was spent about 3 months doing judo. Didn't get through to me. And then a little while down the line, I ended up taking up a Goju-ryu class, which I recently found to be a Nisekai karate class under a guy called Rainer Parsons. I don't know if any of you viewers might have heard of him. A student of Nobetsu Sensei. Stayed there for 10 years, got my black belt, and now, after a year of sort of being kind of idle, I suppose, I'm currently studying a bit of Xingyi and a bit of Bagua under the sickness. So, yeah, things good.
Excellent.
Yeah. I find it amazing. 10 years of training under a genuine master of karate didn't teach me as much about karate as a couple of months talking to you did.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I had plenty of time to just kind of research anything and everything. What were health problems a few years back, so you can't really blame.
Undermine my own master, by the way. Like, to be fair, we're talking about a dyslexic German trying to communicate Chinese secrets from a Japanese master to an annoying Englishman. It's not the easiest sell.
Yeah. As our friend Jonathan Pritchard put it, that is a hell of a game of telephone to play.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Pritchard, for the record. Like, if anyone's watching and you don't follow him on Twitter or on YouTube, for the love of God, you need to. It's worth it. Yoga Midnight and Mako Decal
as well. Yes. So, the whole crew.
They're good. Good dudes.
Yes. Yeah. Jonathan's got a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies you know, but interestingly enough, it's the same finger in all of these different pies. So he's got a very adaptable skill set. You know, that first episode with him, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember watching that and thinking I should do this shit. But yeah, I think his approach to Wing Chun is downright fascinating. It takes a very cerebral approach to a very physical art. And I don't know, it gives him and Chicago Wing Chun Society an edge that I think a lot of martial arts societies lack.
Yeah.
I think
I would agree.
Definitely worth watching that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the stuff he talked about in the Crossing Hands episode, for example, where he's talking about, where he says, I could feel you doing what you were going to do. And it's like, for him, very simple. For me, it was like, I spent 10 years doing this shit and I can't do that. What am I doing wrong?
Oh, I would honestly to like be a little overly serious in response to your rhetorical question. What you're doing wrong is just being young. You know, any martial art, as you get older, you find that like that fire of youth kind of wanes a little bit, and you automatically just kind of slide into more of the thinking man's game. You know, you start to pay a little more attention to details and subtleties because you just can't physically bulldoze people the way you used to, which, you know, I can honestly say martial arts are the reason why I don't have a problem with getting older. A lot of people told me while I was sick that I seemed to have an unusually positive attitude. And part of it was, the obvious, if you're in a bad way and you act all depressed, woe is me, like the Winnie the Pooh character Eeyore, it's only going to get worse. But the other part, as somebody who walks the martial path, you kind of realize benefits are where you look for them. They're not just, something obvious. Even in the darkest situation, if you're looking for a positive, you're going to find a positive. So, and I do especially agree, hashtag Uncle Kung Fu Uncle approved. Jonathan's approach to learning and teaching Wing Chun is great because he's 100% right when he says you should take advantage of the potentials and the opportunities offered by the technology of today. The time where you couldn't learn any martial art unless you were basically living with a teacher. Nowadays, you don't even need to be in the same time zone and you can learn from somebody. So.
I find it interesting you bring that up, especially the sort of positive mindset and the sickness, because my mind goes back to my mother being diagnosed with a very aggressive breast cancer. It's like she had the mindset of just get up, mind dogs, take kids to school, get housework done. Everyone else on that ward is dead, and she's still alive.
Yeah. Oh,
like 5 years down the line, and it's like, shit. This mindset stuff is real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the my maternal grandfather was diagnosed with stomach cancer years ago, given 6 months to live. He lived several years beyond that diagnosis. It's really life in a lot of ways. I find the way of martial arts is really applicable to a regular, civilian, quote unquote, life. In that the stronger spirit is what comes out on top. In a fight, whoever has the stronger fighting spirit is going to win. In life, whoever can stay sort of positive and motivated to continue living, they're going to continue to live. They're going to survive. They're going to thrive. So,
Absolutely.
I had personally inadvertently lost my my fighting spirit without realizing it at one point, and my weight dipped very low. But thanks to certain people close to me, they pointed out that I had kind of not given up, but kind of given in a way, and that really woke me up. And now I'm back to an extremely healthy weight. As you can see, like you can't even see all the bones in my skull.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that your viewers are not here to hear about recovering from illnesses. So it's a very interesting topic. I get the feeling they're here to talk about martial arts. So I am curious. I am aware that you have a famous teacher, Dr. Yang. Correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Dr. Yang Jing Min.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, Dr. Yang. He's a
I'm
real
wondering if he's as much of a bastard as my teacher.
no. I mean, he's a you know, and I mean that in the Western sense of the word. He's got a PhD in mechanical engineering. You know, he taught physics in the Taiwanese Air Force when he was young. Before coming to the U.S., he got his PhD at Purdue. He's got the best of both worlds. You know, his first teacher was a white crane master who lived in a house he had built by hand up in the mountains outside of the town that Dr. Yang grew up in Taiwan. So he got an
so Miyagi, it hurts.
I know, right? He got an extremely traditional education and foundation in martial arts, and then just kind of went on to be an extremely 20th century scientist. You know, and then came to the U.S. So he's learned quite a few things. He's got a nice eclectic mix of skills and styles. You know, he learned Southern White Crane. He learned Long Fist in college. He learned Yang style Tai Chi Chuan, different Yang family than his family, famous Yang family. In Tai Chi Chuan, there's 5 family styles. The originators, the Chen family, farmers from I believe Henan province. They're extremely popular with the communists in mainland China for obvious reasons. What with the whole
why.
Yes, we don't need to get into that part, but you know, for those who know, you know why the Chens are the preferred lineage. The first outsider to learn from them was a guy named Yang Luchan. He was his martial arts nickname could be translated a couple of different ways, but it essentially meant unbeatable Yang. You know, he was a guy who learned their skills, transformed, and adapted what they taught him. Got a job in you know, working for the imperial family in Qing Dynasty China. His style spread most widely across the world. So most Tai Chi Chuan that you see, either Tai Chi Chuan as a martial art or just, you know, Tai Chi for health, it's going to be Yang style derivative. His grandsons are probably some of the most famous Tai Chi people of the early 20th century. People that they taught developed the remainder of the styles. You know, like Wu Yushang developed one of the 2 Wu style Tai Chi Chuans, and from that, famous Xing Yi man Sun Lutang adapted that stuff, combined it with what he had learned in Xing Yi and Bagua, created Sun style Tai Chi Chuan. So I learned Yang style Tai Chi Chuan from Dr. Yang for the last few years because of how frail and underweight I was while I was really sick. I started to study Sun style Tai Chi Chuan, so that's kind of what I'm focusing on as far as that goes right now. That's what I'm working on getting better at personally, is the Sun style of Tai Chi Chuan. It's very fun.
So in terms of the physicality then, is there what's the difference between the Yang style and the Sun style, which makes it a bit more relevant to someone who is in your current condition?
Well, the young style has wider, deeper stances comparatively, and wider postures. As an example, a very common posture that's in almost all northern Chinese martial arts is something called single whip. Dan bian. Excuse me. Not a whip like a, like a leather bullwhip you would think of in the West, but a hard whip, a common weapon in Chinese martial arts. Basically, a metal rod about the length of a saber.
More akin to a riding crop than a bullwhip.
Yeah, but if you can imagine it, probably about half the thickness of a grown man's forearm. Like a nice, thick metal rod. A billy club or a club, but made
Yeah, like a policeman's truncheon type thing.
Yeah,
like
that's actually. I don't like to use that term, even though that is the actual dictionary definition. That is the actual perfect Chinese to English translation would be a truncheon, but in the U.S., let's just say American English is not exactly Her Majesty's beautiful. So
I quite like billy club, to be honest. It's got a truncheon, feels a bit sort of.
It feels like whoever's saying it is better than you. That's the difference.
It's one of those words where it makes you feel like the conversation is crawling through molasses uphill in January on crutches. It's one of those ones. It's vocabulary that doesn't really need to be there unless it absolutely has.
Yeah, it is a little more suited to that period where Charles Dickens was a popular author and not something you learned in lit class. But getting back to the martial arts aspect, single whip in most martial arts is just any sort of posture where both arms are extended in one straight horizontal line at shoulder height.
Okay.
So
I find that interesting because in Goju we've never had any stance, any codified stance like that. It appears in some kata, but this is the trouble again. So like my master was very limited in what he could communicate to me. So there were moments in katas where we had our arms go out like this.
Yeah.
But any kind of explanation wasn't able to be articulated. So I don't know what that does. I just know it's part of the kata. Just do it. Which is a pain.
Well, when it comes to stuff like that, and especially in like a formalized routine, a kata in Japanese styles or a talu in Chinese styles, it's hard for non-martial artists to really grasp. But while you can apply martially any movement, any position, any structure from a set exercise, whether it's just like a combination pattern or a mechanical pattern or a whole routine, at the same time, in a routine, there is a bit of a distinction between structural patterns and application patterns. So if you use like the Western style of boxing as a reference, most of what they do are application patterns, so you throw a series of particular types of strikes in succession in a particular rhythm in a particular pattern. But the way the Chinese will do it, they'll mix that sort of thing in with things that you only do for how they'll teach you to think about moving a human body through space. And single whip is one of those styles where, if you want to be an asshole about it, you can find applications for the pattern. But if you want to be more realistic, it's more about teaching you how to think about moving a human body in three-dimensional space. And the
I think that's
primary
where you and my master sort of diverged, because he was. So my master, for those who are watching, was Rainer Parsons. He's sort of, I think he's about 80 odd now. I started with him about 10 years ago. I finished with him about a year ago. He was about 70 when I started, maybe 71. He was about 80 when I finished. So in that time, we're talking about a guy who can no longer really kick, can no longer really. He's still a dangerously good martial artist. I'd say the most dangerous thing about him was the fact that he knew how to use the ki, or the chi, very well.
Yeah.
And we'll get on to that, because I get a feeling the conversation will move towards that naturally. He was a right bastard when it came to that application. But I remember the gradings for my blue belt and brown belt and black belt, and a large part of them was, okay, this is your kata, and this is the part that you have to remember. And he would show me like what I would consider to be the most useless part, and he would say, 20 bunkai, go, like 20 applications. You have a black belt who's going to try and knock your block off with every punch. Apply it. And I would have to do it 20 times, or 30 times, or 50 times, or I would have to continue going for a solid hour until I passed out.
Yeah.
So he was an interesting teacher. So everything had an application in his eyes, which was fun.
Right, exactly. That's the interesting thing about the Japanese styles, is they have a very practical type of esotericism built into the way they think about things. It is about one man fighting another man, but at the same time, there's also all this stuff that if you say it to regular people, they're going to look at you like you're completely insane.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite ones that I only recently sort of cracked was Reiner's way of communicating. It was he would say, put your fist out, make it strong. I'd put my hand out. He'd push down on it, and he'd say, can I move it this way? And they go, no, you can't. I can hold it. Can you move it this way? So no, you can't. I can hold it. And he'd push it diagonally, and I couldn't resist it. And he'd say, two directions. You can't beat two directions.
Yeah. And
it was only recently, like, I was playing around with the breathing and the tensing. Like, there's this thing, I don't know what you call it, but it's basically where you can take a punch through diaphragm breathing and you, like, harden the body.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah, I think
it was only
Lloyd,
hey?
I think Lloyd from Twitter, at Business and Bullets, he would be a good one to ask about this, because it's a very, he's a karate man. So, but I do understand. I'm not familiar with the Japanese term for it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
The trouble is that my master wasn't familiar with it either. Again, we're talking about a dyslexic German speaking to a Japanese man about Chinese methods.
Yeah.
But it was only when I sort of I'd been doing the diaphragm breathing for ages, and I was just stood in a queue at the bank, and I was like, I'm bored, let's play with this.
Yeah.
And it was kind of when I envisioned it as a downwards diagonal, the body suddenly hardened, and it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
How you take the punch.
Exactly.
It took me like 11 years to crack that.
Yeah, that's one thing that the English definitely have over us pale skins is did I say Asians? Whatever. Might have to slow down.
English.
I might have to slow down then on the alcohol, but one thing that they have, the way that they think about martial arts compared to a lot of other cultural groups, Europeans and Americans included. I mean, considering you're in Europe and I'm in the US, especially the way that we were both raised to think about this sort of thing.
The Prussian cuffs.
I know, right? Exactly. We're all kind of hamstrung with that, but it goes without saying for the way that the Chinese, especially, but also to a lesser extent, most of the more effective Japanese martial artists. One of the base assumptions is a three-dimensional body moving in three-dimensional space. So a lot of these things that people are really impressed by, these chi feats, these strength feats, this goes back to even, from episode 1 with Jonathan. It's not really that it's about having a power that normal people don't have. It's about knowing a simple trick based in natural physics that people don't really pay attention to. In Xingyi, they say, when you see the opening, don't strike. When you see the cross, then you strike. The idea is, if it looks like, let's say, the diaphragm or, the cheek or the rib cage is open, that could be a trap. An experienced martial artist will create fake openings in their defensive posture to entice you to attack. It's bait to draw you in so that they can borrow your attempt at an attack and use that to get their own attack in. So Xingyi's strategy is you don't try to strike when you see that their hands are low so that their face and their throat are relatively undefended. You only strike when you make contact with their lead hand and move it horizontally in relation to the sort of momentum that they were trying to use. So if somebody's trying to give you a straight strike, meet that with your lead hand and you move it to your relative outside, what will close their lead hand across their chest. Now their rear hand, their other hand, is sort of canceled just by the relative position structurally. So that's when you would try and strike them in the face. If it's just a normal, what in Western boxing would be a jab, if somebody throws a jab, Xingyi's idea is you don't try to slip that and counter strike. You want to cancel that jab in a way that's going to impede any sort of follow-up potential by their other hand, and then strike from that position, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, follow it, man. Follow it.
The Bagua version of that, just to continue on that train of thought, is when you meet that lead strike, you take a step forward from the position of contact. Now you're in what's called the empty door. So if somebody strikes with their left hand, you meet it with your left hand, you want to come a half step forward comparatively. So now instead of being at arm's length with each other, now they're at arm's length, but you're standing near their upper arm.
You're standing on the in. We had a very similar. We had a similar thing in karate, taisabaki.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea is like they step into punch, and all it is a hip movement, sort of sideways. It's not quite backwards, but it's just kind of like the punch comes towards you, and you let it pass through you.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, your left fist or your right fist is right by their floating ribs, and nothing they can do can touch you.
Exactly.
I really like. I think that was one of the few things I could do quite well in karate. It's just like turn and break everything there. Done.
Yeah. It's easy for a lot of I'm not sure how it is. I'm not sure what the Western style boxing.
I mean, the thing is, I'm a short guy. I'm about 5'8", so I suit the whole get close thing. Yeah. It's like the closer I am, the more screwed you are.
Exactly.
I don't have that reach. I've got little arms. I've got a shot.
Well, I'm 6'3", and I've told everybody smaller than me that I've trained with or that I've taught, If you try to keep your distance from me, you're playing my game. And even a sucker my size is going to win because we have the mechanical, physics-based advantage. If you stand over there, I can reach over there and you're going to get knocked out. What you need to do is come closer. You need to be, there's the elbow. You need to be inside that point if you want to beat somebody my size without being in danger.
There are only two people I've actually sparred with who I would consider downright lethal. One of whom is Tiny Tom Craven. You ever heard of him?
That name sounds familiar.
He's 8 foot. He's a giant. He does jiu-jitsu. I sparred with him once, and he just, I don't know what the classic throw is where they do you over the shoulder.
Yeah.
I decided that it was part of my grading. It was like, you want to get your brown belt, you've got to fight this guy. And it's like, okay, Tiny Tom Craven, fine. 8 foot tall, crew cut ex Royal Marine. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was flipped over his shoulder and sort of basically knocked unconscious in about 2 seconds, which is brilliant. I sort of got up and staggered away, sort of like.
Interestingly enough, that application in Bagwajang is called playfully carrying a bag over the shoulder. They've got the best names in Bagua.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The only other person I consider downright lethal is again my old master, he scared me. One story that always comes to mind is being in Morecambe. We were being trained by this Krav Maga expert from Israel. He comes forward. He's like, big shoulders, 6'5". All right. So what you're going to do is, he's going to come at you. You block him, grab him, bring him close, knee him in the groin, 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 and so on and so forth until the poor bastard he's demonstrating on is a puddle on the floor. And Reiner steps forward and he says, "Chamois." And he steps forward with the grab. And Reiner just goes down. So there's this movement called Mawashi Uke, which is this, I'll try and do a miniature version. A couple of whiskeys in, but it's like, it's this block.
Okay.
And he sort of does a variation on it, but he just does the one arm where it's like,
yeah,
he grabs this guy's testicles. And I've never seen someone turn from a tan complexion to completely paper white. and all my master said was, "Are we going to play nice now?"
Yeah.
That was the moment I realized you don't fuck with him. You just don't. Right.
That's the interesting thing about Krav Maga. It seems to attract 2 types of people: people that you should be afraid of, and people that you
really shouldn't.
Yeah, like there's a lot of. I know a particular individual. I'm not going to get into their backstory.
Is this the alleged man named Tubbs?
No, it's actually one of his younger siblings. He's the oldest of 3. So the youngest is a Krav Maga man. And with the Xingyi that Tubbs was able to pick up, he completely demolished the youngest there, number 3. And it was one of those things where, like, yeah, it's not that Xingyi is better than Krav Maga. I've said this numerous times. I've tweeted this regularly. This is one of my go-to lines in teaching and in my personal martial arts philosophy. It's not the style that beats you, it's the man. Xingyi doesn't beat Krav Maga, but a properly trained Xingyi person is going to mop the floor with a chump that goes to Krav Maga class.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it isn't the chump's reputation that suffers in that situation. It's the style that they've chosen. So a chump Taekwondo practitioner doesn't take a hit to their rep. Taekwondo takes a hit to its rep. A chump karate.
To be honest, though, I've got to say that the people I've met who've trained in Taekwondo, this is not to knock the style.
Yeah.
I suppose this is me trying to cause a bit of controversy. Taekwondo has around, 200 hand techniques? And everyone I've met doesn't use a single bloody one of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's, well, when you learn jujitsu, you're not learning it to grapple or to learn unbalancing. You're learning it to learn ground chokeouts, right? Most people nowadays who are learning jujitsu aren't learning jujitsu. They're pursuing what they saw in MMA 109 or whatever, you know? Or, I mean, if you're my age, MMA 1, Ultimate Fighting 1. So it's a shame the way some people will short sell their own chosen style. You know, they'll graft their shortcomings onto the style that they've learned, which is a shame because there's no such thing as a weak martial art. Weak martial arts never get passed on. If you've heard of it, there's something there. And there was at least one person who could use it to its potential. So it took me a while to realize that.
Quite a bit.
What'd you say?
I think that's something that gets forgotten quite a bit because I think that a fair number of martial arts, I think Aikido, for example, gets a really bad rap, especially with Steven Seagal.
Oh my God. Yeah, what he's become is such a disgrace compared to what Aikido is capable of.
And I mean, you look at some people like I'll tell you the guy I went drinking with tonight. Ben Grant is currently on Team GB for Aikido.
Okay.
And it's like you watch that guy train. And it's like you see hundreds of years worth of effort and hundreds of years worth like actually being passed down. It's impressive to watch. Like I don't particularly like Taekwondo, but I know some of the guys I've trained with actually have gone away and read the books. And, I'll accept. I did Goju-Ryu for 10 years. I only recently learned that the book known as the Bubishi, or there's a version of it that exists. It's identical, but it's called something like the Secret Shaolin Bronze Man book.
Exactly.
Which is just so... I didn't realize that existed until a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But again, that's the downside of playing, as you said before, that extended game of telephone. Like, there's so much that gets lost in translation. They can only tell you. Like, I can say that Ryanair didn't have that. What he had instead was a very unusual history of training with guys from not just Goju-Ryu, but Shotokan, Wado-Ryu, Jiu-Jitsu, English boxing. I mean, the stuff I learned isn't even Nisekai. Like, I'm sure to God there's some Sambo mixed in there. Like, he just traveled the world, beating the shit out of people and picking up anything that he found useful.
That's a very Japanese mentality. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Somehow, our clothing and the lighting has completely changed. Must just be about, the strength of somebody's kung fu. But anyway, now that we're back. So, Jordan, why don't we delve a little bit into your martial arts background for our audience so that they can understand your journey in the world of the martial arts, shall we say?
All kicked off around about primary school. downside of being a smart kid in that kind of school is that you just got the shit kicked out of you every day. Like you would walk around the corner and there would be a fist waiting for you. Like, it got worse in high school for a bit, but I took up Goju Karate when I was about 10, and I stayed until I was about 20, 21-ish. So the guy who taught me was a guy, maybe some of your viewers are going to recognize the name, Rainer Parsons, who is absolutely terrifying. But at the time I met him, he was about 70, little German guy. Studied with Nabetsu, studied with Higawama, studied with all these characters, and he was nothing short of a monster in the best and worst way. Yeah, he and his 3 sons gave me an interesting education in terms of martial arts, in where I left capable, but still pretty much in the dark as to what I was doing in a weird way. Like, I only recently found out that the branch I studied was called Nisekai. I only recently found out about the Ubishi, the Bible of karate. There was a lot that was sort of subliminally communicated through their way of going about it. Not to mention the fact that he was an anti-authoritarian asshole. Again, best I say it with love, but he was a dick in the best way.
Yeah, that way of sort of implanting concepts into a student without actually teaching them the concepts or explaining any sort of rationale is an extremely Japanese way of teaching martial arts, or pretty much any cultural art in my experience. But in the martial arts is the way you get that, you know, what you just said, a dick in the best way kind of experience.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who, when he was training with the old grandmasters up in Japan, like, he went out to Okinawa, and then we're all lined up in the hall. It's like, bows to the masters, everybody bows, bows to the Japanese flag, and he just gets up and walks out. And when somebody comes up to him and says, "How dare you disrespect us? Why didn't you bow to the Japanese flag?" Just leans in, all gold teeth and rancid breath, and he goes, "It's not my flag." It's just that willful, I don't care what you say. And just, granted, I think it led to him reinventing the wheel in some areas, but he did a bloody good job of it, to the point where I met a lot of people who were supposedly ranked higher than him, and they would look at him and go, "Don't want to spar with him. Don't want to fight him. Just don't. He's going to win." But
yeah, I like to tell people when it comes to ranking in Asian martial arts, you know, since most people are dealing with Chinese, Japanese, or Korean martial arts, this definitely holds true for all of them. Your rank relative to your classmates and people in your generation is definitely kind of a function of your skill as a modifier to the primary, which is your sort of like Confucian family value type of rank. So a more filial son is going to rank higher than a more disobedient individualistic son.
Yeah.
No matter who's actually better. So it's one of those things where, right, you're higher in the lineage than me, but can you kick my ass?
If they like you, and if they and I think that was probably where he went wrong and right, in the way that he didn't care who liked him. Oh God, case in point. We were at a seminar, Ford introducing themselves like, "I'm such and such. I'm Ninth Dan Goju."
Oh, we've got a little problem here. Little pause.
And then, hello?
You froze where you said ninth Dan Goju-Ryu.
Oh yeah, they all step forward, and it's like, I'm this, I'm that, and the other.
Yeah.
I'm so and so, sensei so and so, sensei so and so, sensei so and so. Reiner steps forward and he says, "I'm the Easter Bunny." Hey, Dan Goju-Ryu. And everyone just stops. But it's just completely. And the guy who was running the thing just stared. Just like, what are you doing? Lead guy was a judo man. He had us all bowing to the picture of Kano.
Yeah.
And Reiner just walks over, kicks over the portrait, and goes, "Are you going to teach them to kill now?"
Perfect.
So yeah, he had no patience for any kind of. One of my friends who used to train with me does Aikido now. You know who you are if you're watching. And he was always like, "Oh, he showed no respect. And I was like, well, he respected his students in the way that he wanted them to actually get some work done. Ritual be damned.
Yeah.
On the one hand, maybe he was a bit too abrasive about it, but on the other hand, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. He was a heck of an influence.
Yeah. That's one of the, buyer beware. In when it comes to learning martial arts, you take your risks with the personality and methodology of a given teacher. If you've got somebody that is such a virtuoso that they can impart the skill to you without ever actually touching you, that's great. Good for you. But if you get, one of those people that makes your really violent friends look at you in dead seriousness and say, monsters are real in this world, then that's how that is. This is one area where I like to apply that Christian principle that so many people fall back on of the Lord only gives you what you can handle. So maybe you deserve to have like a weird stink breath German grabbing you by the throat and just digging both of those thumbs in.
Oh, no. His favorite was, it was either groin attacks or it was going for the arteries on the arms.
Yeah.
And he would go through the bicep instead of on the elbow.
Yeah.
The Kusho point, he would just if you fell into it, he'd always fight like this. He'd just let this hang and wave. I remember watching him spar one time. Again, so you got this young Kyokushin guy, and he's like, "Oh, come on." Reiner's just there. And the young guy's teacher says, "Don't look him in the eye, he's trying to hypnotize you." Reiner's just there like, "Fuck it, I'm going to work on it."
Right? Oh, that stuff's so fun. When you get to do that insane movie shit, try your weapons. Oh yeah.
And it's amazing. One thing, it's stunning to see what works on other martial artists. Like, I know for a fact that shit wouldn't work on a white belt, but with a second Dan who's desperate to prove himself and is, I want to learn how to control my chi, and then all of a sudden someone says that eighth Dan's going to try and hypnotize you. That's the worst thing you can say to him. Now he's going to think he can get hypnotized. It's just
yeah. Oh yeah, amazing. I wrote about this. The whole there are certain things that are not objectively real. It looks like a psychic power, but it's not real. It's something that depends on somebody's cultivated, deliberate, developed intuition in a particular skill set. So empty force in Chinese martial arts, it looks like I just blasted you with chi, Dragon Ball Z style, from across the room. That doesn't work on a beginner. It doesn't work on a regular person. It doesn't work on somebody that was in a military, like somebody who did military service, but it works on somebody with the expectation that such a thing is theoretically possible.
Yeah. That's kind of, didn't you cover that with Pritchard?
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit because it's, the immovability trick, the immovable arm, the immovable leg.
Yeah.
You can't pick my body up even though I weigh 75 pounds. Like,
that was the first lesson with Reiner, think up, lift me up, think down, just like.
Yeah.
Which
Physics. There's such
think it's the best first lesson you can get if you want to like demonstrate. Instead of just getting straight into kicks or punches, his first thing was like, okay, your first 3 weeks will be breathing and thinking.
Yeah.
It's like, really? And it's like, breathe from the diaphragm. Why am I doing this? I can breathe fine from the shoulders. Please breathe from the diaphragm. Why am I punches me in the stomach? Strike me. No, come on, stop coughing. Strike me. Punch him in the stomach.
Yeah.
Just like rock solid from the breathing. Yeah. And it was like, this is why we breathe through the diaphragm. Like, first 3 weeks, by the end of it, I was breathing through the belly. I used to have crippling asthma. Like, I can walk out in the cold. Not much of a thing.
Yeah.
Occasionally, if I'm under the weather, might have a bit of a, but otherwise, not like the whole coughing and hacking. It's like just karate, just breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Yeah. My teacher, Dr. Yang Ming, he gets some shit. Not as much nowadays. He's well established enough, but in the 80s, people used to challenge him because he openly published books with ideas that were considered heretical or impossible at the time. When he started publishing a lot of stuff about Qigong and meditation, those ideas that a lot of cases of asthma can be solved by learning how to breathe properly. A surprisingly large number of people that opposed him, that was their reason. You can kind of get like a karate guy or a jiu-jitsu guy being mad when he would say that like joint locks work better if you come in soft than if you come in hard. You can kind of understand that, but thinking, you can cure asthma by learning how to use your body properly. Like, it seems insane to me that people would actually get mad at another person over saying we can fix this.
At least test it first.
Yeah.
Right. For you, that's something. That is another lesson I learned from. It's like, try it yourself. If it works, good. This is why I recently found it was called Nisekai Karate. It's really hard to say. And again, I think there was a moment where I spoke to someone else who trained in Goju, and I fought with them.
Yeah.
We had a sparring lesson, and about halfway through, he said, this isn't Goju-ryu. It's like, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. He said, come at me again. He came at me again, and I just did what I was taught to do. And like his face dropped, and he said, that's Rainer-ryu. What? You train with Rainer Parsons. I don't want to fight you anymore. It's like, it's like, why? And what I found is that, like, what he taught me wasn't pure Goju.
Yeah.
It wasn't just hard soft style. It was like, this guy is trained with guys who did Wada, Muay Thai, English boxing, savate. It's more akin to, and I know you're not going to like this because I know you're not a Bruce Lee fan, but it ended up looking more like Jeet Kune Do than it did Goju-ryu.
I like Bruce Lee
by a German.
I like Bruce Lee the man and Bruce Lee the martial artist. I love Bruce Lee the actor, but Bruce Lee the marketer, Bruce Lee the pop culture figure, I don't particularly care for those because I think what he was capable of and his real contributions get overshadowed by a bunch of goons wanting to have, I'm going to be 6-pack abs with no shirt on, doing pinky extension finger. No. What he did when he fought was not what he did in movies. And what he did when he fought, one of the reasons that I'm glad that the first episode of the series was with Jonathan Pritchard was that he is like he's a Wing Chun partisan without being partisan. about politics. There are people we in that episode with him, we talked a little bit about when people have the style wars. My style is better than such and such style. Oh, such and that kind of thing. They want to argue. It's not the style that beats you in martial arts. It's the person that you're facing. It's never the style. It's always the man. So, in my own personal sparring experience, I've sparred with a bunch of Wing Chun dudes, and I beat all of their asses because I was a better fighter than them, not because, in 2005 I was just learning internal martial arts. So when I fought, most of what I did was Ba Fan. It's not that Ba Fan or Fanzi was better than Wing Chun. It's that I was better than that person. In 2011, when I was well into Xing Yi and Bagua and Tai Chi Chuan, it wasn't that internal styles are better than Wing Chun. It's that I was better than that person. I'm unlucky in a martial arts context because I haven't had the opportunity to fight people who think about martial arts the way that I do. I fought a bunch of people that felt bad about getting beat up when they were 9. So I don't like to, now at my age, I don't like to talk about, my win-loss record in fights because, is it braggable to say that I beat up somebody who was out of shape, beat up somebody with 0 athleticism, beat up somebody that's missing both of their arms? No, that's not braggable. I don't have anything to brag about. If I was fighting people with talent or people with dedication, yeah, I would brag about that. But that's not my experience. So I'm looking forward greatly to getting the chance to spar with the sort of people that I have on this show. I really, it's nothing personal, Jonathan. I don't mean this in the wrong way, but I want to fight that motherfucker.
We need to get all the. I tell you what, you take Pritchard, I'll take McClay.
All right, we can have a go that way, and then we'll swap.
Because I want to see after hearing that Willem Dutois.
Yeah, the Silat. If you haven't already done research into Roman's background, I would suggest you do that.
Yes. Oh, he sounds a bit like, especially I read a story about Dutois where apparently he was watching demonstrations, like strength demonstrations, and he just got so bored he walked out in the middle of all these people, went up to a metal door, punched a dent in it, and said, "That is power," then sat back down. Never got invited back again. And it's like, it's kind of shit Ryan would pull. I want to train with McClay now.
Right?
Because if he's trained with him, I'm willing to wager that he and I will be able to fight in a similar. Granted, I get the feeling he'll have the advantage because he isn't like 5'8" and 16 stone. Because I've been out of practice for a while. But if he's up for it, I can hit the gym a little more often. I can get in shape for the fight. This is me. I am actively challenging the author of Sanction to a sparring match.
Hey,
this can only end
as long as he doesn't choose weapon sparring and then show up with a pillowcase full of sanctions, you'll be okay.
A pillowcase full of them. You don't even need the one. I got the Kindle copy and my phone is twice as heavy now.
Dynamite. That's the only Kindle book that I've purchased that I haven't actually straight loaded to my phone because I need some gigs of memory.
Yeah, I think that it's. Oh Jesus! That just reminds me. Story that Ryan had told me. So apparently some of his students were out getting drunk. One of them got lost He was apparently jumped by thugs, but apparently all he and the students could hear was laughter. And they ran down and they saw that this guy, number one, he was drunk. Number two, had picked up a brick. And number three, was performing a kata and using it to beat these guys senseless. And the last thing he said before he passed out, apparently, was, "This karate stuff really works." Of course, a brick does. You put a brick in your hand, put it down. It's just, but I just, Jesus.
I love it.
I kind of wonder how much of it is true. Like, I've heard stories of, like, one of his sons was, like, out working as a bouncer in Cuba.
Okay.
And it's like, apparently this guy comes in one night, he's clearly on cocaine and God knows what else. And so they knock him out. And then all of a sudden, they just watch his foot go, stands bolt upright, ready for round two. Apparently this went on for like an hour, just like knock him unconscious, boom, 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 get back up. And it's like, what do we do with this guy? We throw him out, he comes back in, we close the door, he comes through the window, we knock him down. And he just kind of, it was like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Apparently,
yes.
like just straight up. It wasn't like climb back up, it was just like straight back up on his feet. And it's like, really? And you kind of wonder how much of it is real. And you kind of realize that even if it wasn't real, it still illustrates the lesson they're trying to teach you.
Yeah.
Better than getting hit over the head so you learn what there is and you don't ask questions. And an appreciation of tall tales and
right.
My training.
Yeah. One of the oldest teaching methods in anyone's martial arts tradition. We can do this the hard way, or we can do it the easy way. What's the hard way? It's fucking harder than the easy way. Trust me. Let's just do it the easy way. I will kill you. That's why I carry the stick. I got the bamboo cane, comes up to about just about my waist. I show people there's a certain type of student I have. They need to see the cane at the beginning of lesson 1. The student that I want doesn't need to see the cane until we start talking about weirdo shit like chi and striking from a distance. And I'm going to program your body to collapse at this point. This is how you do a time delay strike. This is how you do, that stuff's great. But there are certain people.
I never learned the time delay. I never learned. I can pressure points. I can.
Interestingly
I know you insist on calling me Volcano Hands. I'm currently at the stage where if I do the Qigong, I'm not Jordan Volcano Hands Casstles. I'm Jordan Hands gets slightly warm if he holds the stance for about 30 seconds, Casstles.
Hey, there are people who have been practicing internal martial arts longer than you've been alive that still can't even get a slightly warm or slightly tingling feeling from doing a specifically Qigong exercise. So when I'm saying your Volcano Hands, yeah, I'm going to admit that's about 45% the fact that I'm an asshole. But that's 65.
That's 45. 35. No, it's 45% you're an asshole. It's 50% that
you're following instructions, and that's a lot more than most people are willing to give me in my experience.
And there's 5% that you're a Ghostface Killer fan, as am I.
I am a Ghostface Killer. Yes, I do love ghosts, big ghosts. But one of the reasons that I have Matt and Alex, Yoga Midnight and Mako Decal, respectively, on with me on the Kung Fu discussion group is that I'm not asking anybody to be a 99th percentile genius. I'm not asking people to have overwhelming physical superiority or athletic talent. I'm asking people to listen when I talk and follow instructions. And I've been teaching, at this point for about 18 years, I've been teaching martial arts. And so far, you and Matt and Alex are the only students I've had that have listened to one goddamn word that I have said. So the fact that I told you, do Santischer, this is Santischer, do that exercise. If you do it this way, you will get this result. The fact that you did it and got that result relatively quickly means right. I'm not going to have to kill you in 15 years. That's good. That's good. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that I don't have to, I don't have to catch that knife blade between my index and middle finger to fucking show them. Not that, anybody has ever
What is
tried
that? What do you call it? Iron chopsticks.
Yes. Xingyi's.
Always wanted. I've seen that in movies, and it's like I always. There's so many.
It's fun.
Again, like a lot of a good chunk of the reason I ended up taking karate is because so many goddamn movies I watched when I was a kid, and it's like I want to be able to do that to the big guy who punches my face in every Monday. It's like your one is dance to the drunk mantis.
Yes, that is where Uncle Sickness comes from. Watch Dance to the Drunk Mantis. That's a classic movie.
It's definitely worth it. Dance to the Drunk Mantis, fantastic. 5 Deadly Venoms, need to watch.
Another classic. The
one that always comes to mind for me, the Game of Death. The one with the tower. I have weird nightmares about that tower because it's like.
I would recommend to you, and I'll actually send you the information when we're done recording. But one of the Bruce Lee imitators after Bruce Lee's death recorded an unofficial sequel to Game of Death that actually followed what the intended storyline was. He made the movie that on paper is what Bruce Lee intended to make before he died. So what Game of Death was supposed to be, you can see a version of that movie and it's fucking dynamite. Wow. Yeah. But I mean, granted, bear in mind your Kung Fu uncle is somebody who loves not just bad movies in general, but also bad martial arts movies specifically.
Oh, bad martial arts movies.
This is a great bad martial art. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those martial arts movies where, I love it because considering the acting talent that they had and the budget they had and the resources, shooting locations, etc., that they had, the fact that they did something this good means, right? Imagine what Bruce Lee would have done with all that money that he had at his command for movie making.
I mean, the one thing I've always wished that they'd make. You've probably seen this, but it was like there was going to be another, the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
The RZA being a student of that Shaolin monk in Staten Island.
Yeah.
And it's like there is actually a trailer out there on YouTube of this absolutely wonderful looking Wu-Tang movie that never got made in the end. It got scrapped in favor of The Man with the Iron Fists, which is enjoyable, but it's a bit too slick for my.
Yeah, there are a couple of things to be disappointed about with that movie, but there are a lot of things to be pleased about with that movie as well.
Brass Bunny, man, my favorite character in that whole damn film. Just wow, that it's amazing what you can do with such a simple concept and how you make it look. Yeah, awesome. But
that reminds me. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to have to start calling one of my friends, my friend Paul, that I've mentioned a few times on Twitter and in some of my work. I'm going to start calling him Brass Body because he has got the best iron shirt technique that I've personally encountered in the real world. I can use upwards of 60% of my power on this guy, and his reaction is, oh, I actually felt that. That was pretty good. It's like, shit, dude.
finally met your match, Ruka.
Well, you know, I mean, granted, I've got the advantage when you like compare specialty to specialty. I've got the advantage on paper. So it's one of those things where if I'm not at the top of my game, he's definitely going to eat me alive. But yeah, his exact words when he heard that I was back up to not only my normal weight from before my decade of illness, when he heard that I had put on a few pounds, and he was like, "Oh, so you're normal, Brad, again? Well, I'll come to Ohio and fight." And I was like, "Oh shit! Hey, wait, hey, give me a month to do a couple of push-ups. Like, let me, you know, I need to build up a little more muscle mass before I'm going to take on the monster."
You'll get there. You'll get there. I'll need to come down and bring the popcorn. Oh no, considering. Yeah, I need to lose this. Gotta say though, English winter.
Yeah.
Having the belly combined with the qigong,
yeah,
it's kind of awesome to walk through the ice and people are like, "How are you just out in a t-shirt?" It's like,
I know, right? Yeah, this
just breathe.
This
Feel my hands
and stylish sickness kung fu hoodie is all I wear when I go outside, and people are looking at me. Well, what about the lake effect? Well, no, that doesn't work on me. So
one thing I do enjoy doing it if people are like, "How do you do that? How are your hands so warm?" It's like, I could tell you secrets the Shaolin monks taught me.
You're right.
But you're so fat. Shut up.
Hey. Use the correct term. Mesomorph. Yeah, I actually.
Is that the opposite of endomorph?
Yeah,
Shit,
I've explained to a couple of people. No, wait, no, I might have it wrong. I the only thing that I remember for sure is that.
No, it's
ectomorph, mesomorph.
Ectomorph is. Mesomorph. Oh, mesomorph's in the middle.
Yeah. So I've explained to a couple of people. No. Like, you know, a couple of female friends of mine, girls I've dated. No, baby, no. You're not fat. You're not fat at all. No, it's not like that. Just look at this chart. I mean, Hindus came up with it, so you know it must be reasonable. You'd be surprised how well that works. I mean, that's not a knock on Hindus at all. I'm just saying, absolutely. They managed to come up with some shit that if you want somebody to calm the F down, just look at this convenient chart. It's tripartite, so you know it has a basis in reality.
Yeah, oh boy. Of course, again, just sort of going back briefly to Rhino, like, as the years went on, I was like quite fit for a while, got fat. It was like, am I back?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. We're having a little issue here. I'm going to fix this by pausing the video for a moment, but you can keep going.
Okay, yeah, sure. So you can still hear me, yeah?
Yes, hello? Everything is good. I'm letting your video catch up by pausing mine.
What's this? Oh yeah, there was a period of time where I just kept getting faster. The response of Rhino was just like, "I'm trying to build a killing machine. Why are you stopping me? But stop eating shit. Stop." And it's like, it's only recently when it's like, I recently started reading the 9 Laws, Ivan Throne, on your recommendation.
Oh, it's a dynamite book.
And it's like a lot of that. It's kind of like looking at it and reading it. There's a lot of Reiner in there, and it just stuns me to see, like, he never read that book. I think he was clearly around and doing this kind of thing long before Ivan Throne probably existed.
Well, Ivan also has a Japanese martial arts background, so it makes perfect sense that there'd be.
I'll always admit, though, I think that Ivan's martial arts background, I am wary of those who claim to be ninja. I like Ivan. I think he's an interesting guy. I think that his ninja course is probably, at the very least, you're going to get insights from a very insightful individual who is selling something, at the very least, only under the guise of ninjutsu. But most of the folks I've met who claim to be ninja, they're either the real deal and they'll show you party tricks, and then you need to be really careful if you ask them any questions, or they're the kind of folks that would get along with your man called terms.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a rule of thumb when it comes to people who are claiming ninjutsu. If their neck is thinner than my wrist, they're a fraud. That's literally the extent of it. There's a certain type of person, they love ninjutsu because they loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon from the early 90s. And no, there's no such thing as an inappropriate way to be introduced to a martial art. But there is such a thing as, hey, you could have gone and learned this shit for real from legit people. There are plenty of people teaching ninja physical training methods nowadays that you could have learned from. But instead, you bought a $75 course from Rashida Kim. Fuck that. So, I'm not sure if you know who Rashida Kim is. What'd you say?
I said, at least they're not getting inspired by Freeman.
I hate that movie. I'm not going to lie. There was a period where there was probably about a year and a half period while I was in college where I was getting in fist fights every weekend because when I said I do Kung Fu, trying to simplify it for immature American college kids in New England to understand, I would get a comment about like, oh, you're like one of the three ninjas? Like, you fucking motherfucker. Oh my God. I'm going to literally shovel this snow with your fucking face now.
That's, yeah. I mean, the one thing I've taken the saying after a friend of mine introduced me to it, the only ninja I'm willing to listen to besides Ivan Throne is that dude from the Antwoord. Because at least he's entertaining to listen to. Do you listen to, have you come across these guys?
What was it again?
I said the only ninja I really enjoy listening to is that dude from the Antwoord, besides Ivan Throne.
I don't think that I've specifically like sought out any content, but I am aware of who you're talking about.
Yeah. So, for those who are interested, South African rap group. Just if you like weird things, if you like really, really weird and sometimes disturbing things, if you like surrealist visuals and very interesting, funny lyrics, like sort of more aggressive Cool Keith mixed with Wu-Tang Clan mixed with some just downright scumbag shit.
You already said Cool Keith once. You don't need to say it a second time.
Cool Keith. I love that stuff, man. If I'm working in the factory, I'll be listening to like anything to do with Roman McClay or anything to do with your channel. I'll listen to that because valuable stuff. I'll be listening to Cool Keith. I'll be listening to Wu-Tang. And if I'm feeling sentimental, Aerosmith.
Yes, Aerosmith from Boston. I apologize. No, I'm not going to lie. They've got some good music, but at the same time, there's just something about, I don't know, this move, the shaking the haircut in like symbolic reverence.
I mean, on the drive home, it's always Queen.
Well, that goes without saying. Yeah, that I don't normally like, fiction based on real life biopic type movies, but that Queen biopic that was pretty good. That was an enjoyable movie. I mean, unfortunately for my girl, I'm old enough that I actually remember when Queen was an active group before Freddie Mercury died. So there are a couple of things where it happened and she looked over at me and I was just like, we watched it with her mom and me and her mom were making the same face. Like, yeah, that's extremely not what really happened, but that's fine. It's a good movie. I'm just talking shit. I actually did enjoy that.
Fair news. But yeah, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to wrap it up now, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Yes, we've been rambling quite a bit.
It's just a message sent from the temple, got to go back and I don't know, insert weird excuse here. No, we will do this again, though, in some form.
Definitely. Oh, there's no such thing as only being on Crossing Hands one time.
Oh, yes.
So this has been Crossing Hands, episode 3. I am your Uncle Sickness. With me, Volcano Hands himself. Jordan, let them know where can the people find you on the vast wide internet.
If you go on Twitter, then my handle is @Captain Casstles. You'll find me on the Jordan Casstles with the bio Slipstream Thinking. And if you want to read some of my more long form pieces, I recently put up an essay from a good few months back, "The Competent Man and the Last Messiah," which was supposed to become a book before I went completely insane. And you can find me on Medium under J.D. Casstles. That's CASSTLES. It's been an absolute pleasure, Uncle. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming through. I really enjoyed this. All right, this has been Crossing Hands. Everybody, build up your kung fu. We'll see you again.
Stupid? No good? With no talent? You shouldn't talk like that. We can fix your problem very quickly.